What's happening, gentlemen? I wanted to get on here for a second and just let you know we recorded this episode and we thought it went really well. We felt good about it, but then we realized that our microphone, the system for it, did not turn on. So the sound quality will not be as good as normal. We do apologize for that, but we felt like the content was still good. So just kind of look past our goofiness and what happened. We realized almost toward the end that the sound wasn't recording, but we got the recording through the video. It's not quite as good as normal. So check it out and let us know what you thought of it. What'd you think of the content? How did it help you? Let us know so we can continue to make content to make you better men.
So for the next couple weeks, we're going to be talking about some of the issues that most guys deal with.
Yeah.
Some of the issues that happen on a nationwide scale that really are just part of the human condition. And one of the first things we're going to be discussing today is defense.
Yeah.
Is defense good? Is defense bad? Living on defense. I think it's kind of a complicated issue, really.
It is. Yeah. You know, being a football fan, people always say things like defense wins championships. And there is a place for defense. But I think a lot of guys today are living their life defensively, where they're always, trying to protect and do, but they're not really doing anything on offense.
Yeah, I think I know I've been here, where you feel like you're putting in a lot of effort but not making any progress.
Yeah.
That can kind of be that defensive mode, where you're like, I'm just doing everything I can to keep things the way they are. Let's move things forward. Golly.
Make it to Friday. I just want to make it to Friday. Or make it to the next check, or make it to whatever. And it's almost like our society sets up to that. It makes it easy to just be on that defensive where you're always trying to hold on to. I mean, right now, just going to the grocery store makes me cry.
Dude, for real. Groceries are almost twice as expensive as they were when Emily and I first got married.
Yep.
But yeah, it's defensive living. Is there a place for it? What does that look like? What's the bad parts and good parts about it? That's what we're going to be talking about today on the show.
This is the Thriving Man Podcast with David and Reese Maxwell. These weekly shows are designed to help you remove the confusion from your life and make real progress with your growth. No matter where you are or where you're going, we're here to help you live a life you can be proud of. So welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast.
Welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast, where our goal is to help you get out of survival mode and start living a life that you can be proud of. I'm Reese.
And I'm David.
And he's my dad. And our goal is to help men like you switch from defense to offense in life.
That's right.
But today we are talking about living on defense. So let me pose a question to you. I'd love to get your opinion. Is living on defense a good thing or a bad thing? Because you said earlier defense wins championships, but on the opposite end, feeling like you can't make any progress.
Yeah.
What do you think?
To me, and really, I think the reality of defense is we all need some defense in our life, but we don't want to live constantly on defense.
Right.
And so we'll use an example. If you fight a war, you do want to have some safeguards and protections, but if you don't go take any other land, you won't win the war.
Yeah, you're going to lose.
Yeah. I mean, if you just sit behind a walled castle back in the day, the other army would just come and wait you out. They would build up the siege wall. They would just block everybody and just say, okay, starve. So people could say, well, we're safe for a while. But then eventually, you've got to eat, I don't know, whatever's left, and there's not much left. And if you don't have water. And so I think sometimes as men, we tend to get on that defensive side where we feel like we're always behind the eight ball.
Dude, yes. I think that's one of the best definitions of survival mode.
Yeah.
Like literally you feel like you are barely making it all the time. And that's a very defensive way to live. It's a very reactionary way to live. It's, all right, what's my week look like? Well, what's the bills look like this week, And that can happen financially, that can happen relationship-wise. There's a lot of elements to where when we are stuck in that defensive mode, I feel like it can be more stressful.
Yeah.
If it's like a survival mode kind of thing, because you feel like you're just putting all you have into just making it.
Yeah, and what happens is it seems like whenever you start getting to a place where, hey, there's a little light at the end of the tunnel, there's an earthquake. You know, like things are going well financially, a car breaks down.
Oh.
You know.
I got a car breaking
down. Yeah, I know. You've been living that lately.
Oh, yeah. So I am in a car that is almost 20 years old.
It's ancient of days.
Yeah, we call her Bessie. Old Bessie. And I have the undercarriage of that car zip tied.
You do?
To the vehicle.
Yeah.
No joke. Yeah. It is the most white trash thing I've probably ever done. And this past week, the car just would not start.
Mm-hmm.
And I switched the battery. We worked together on that project, actually. We changed the batteries out. It was not a cheap battery. So my heart broke a little bit.
Yeah.
But we finally got that new battery in there. Next morning, dead. Dead as a doornail.
Yep.
And we were like, oh no, it might be something more than the battery.
Yeah.
We take it to a mechanic and he's like, I can't find anything wrong with it. You must have a bad battery. The new one you bought. It's rare, but it happens. We take it over to the AutoZone where we bought the battery and they do the test on it and we're like, there's nothing wrong with the battery. It's your alternator. And so then I go to a different mechanic and I'm like, hey, can you take a look at the alternator and all the pieces? And he goes and he finds out that my trunk was broken. And like part of it, like they was sending energy to the trunk to try and keep a light on that apparently has been dead ever since I've had the car. I didn't even know there was a light back there. And then we finish that. We get home. I'm driving home from church that night. And Emily calls me. She's like, hey, there's something leaking from your car. And I'm like, no, God, please, no. Why? And so then, oh, by the way, amidst all of this, my car, the muffler was broken.
Yeah.
And so my car, which is not a sports car, sounds like a sports car.
Yeah.
And so I'm taking this thing to the shop 3-4 times, buying new batteries, all this stuff. That's living on defense.
It is.
That's like, please, nothing bad.
And that's reality. I mean, stuff like that happens. And I think to not expect that to happen is a little foolish. And sometimes, and that's the danger of when we want to plan and do everything in our life, we think, okay, here's my plan. But then when one thing goes wrong, a lot of times we just quit the plan. Well, I can't do it. You know, I have this schedule for my week, but it's just not working. Well, that's because you're going to be attacked. You're going to have things happen. But living on offense means you keep going at it.
Right. You're trying to take ground rather than just not lose ground. And that's the thing about defense, that there is a place for defense. And I think we'll talk about that later. But the bad part about it is when you have no interest in making progress and taking ground.
Yeah.
That's all just a far off idea. You've given up on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now it's just about making life as little pain as possible. You want it to be as least painful as possible.
Yeah. Well, and for a lot of guys, they have this view that no one else goes through the problems they go through.
I think everyone does, dude.
We do.
Like,
we sit there and think, well, my neighbor doesn't have car issues. Well, he may have a $650 a month payment for a new car. So somebody's paying one way or the other. And so you have to kind of understand that life is normal in that everybody goes through stuff. Sometimes it's seasonal.
Yeah.
You know, a couple times a year you go through a really hard time. Sometimes it's, you know, for a long time. I've been going through stuff for 5 years. But I think sometimes we forget that some things are self-inflicted. We have to be careful. But then some things are just part of life.
Right. Yeah, it's not always personal. It's not that personal. It's not like
it's not always our fault.
Therefore, your car is falling apart, or whatever, or you haven't taken care of your health. Therefore, blah 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 has happened.
Yeah.
And I don't think that'd be a good way to live, because if you can get cynical very quickly. I think a lot of people end up sticking to that unhealthy defensive mode because they're like, forget it.
Yep.
Forget it.
Yeah.
Every time I try and fix something, it falls apart.
Yeah.
Every time I build something, life crashes it down.
Yeah.
Might as well not try. And there is a temptation to do that. I think every guy's dealt with that. There's a temptation to be like, well, forget it, if it's that hard. But that's a very reactionary way
Mm-hmm.
of living. Because
Yeah.
then it's just circumstances.
Well, and sometimes, for a guy, sometimes it's okay to check out and take a break from the garbage of life.
Right.
So we're not saying don't ever take a break. What we're saying is don't let that become your standard. Because it's easy to just kind of check out, become that cynical guy that nobody wants to be around. And what you want to do is think, okay, how am I living on defense? Am I living an active defense where I'm doing something, or am I going passive with my defense and just kind of let life happen to me? One of the sayings that they say in sports, one of the best defenses is a good offense. Like in football, if a team has a really good offense, a lot of times that keeps their defense off the field. Their defense is more rested. The other team's defense gets tired quicker. And that happens in football. And then so your offense is one of the best ways for you to do defense. And that's what we want to remember. We live on offense, we live moving, because that's one of the best ways to keep ourselves from always living on a passive defensive life.
Yeah, I love that phrase, passive and active. Because that's true. I played tennis in high school, and that's what it makes me think of is like tennis, every match, every round is a blend of defense and offense.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Every match. Every point that you win, you're going to have to play both sides. There's going to be a defensive side to get it back out of your court and onto their side of the court. And then there's the offensive side of trying to land it in their side of a court in a way that's successful. It's almost like if you were looking at passive defense and active defense. Passive defense would be, well, I'm just going to hope that when the person hits the ball, they hit it out. So I'm just going to kind of stand here. And I'm just going to let whatever happens happen. That's a passive way of defending. That's just, hey, I pray they make a mistake, or who cares? It's too fast. You give up before you start. That's a passive way of defending. Active defense is, all right, they're serving. It looks like it's going to be going to this corner, so I'm going to run over here. I'm going to set up, and I'm going to hit. All right, what are they doing now? And then you kind of switch, and you're actively engaging in the match. We need to do that with life. We're actively engaging in life. If we disengage, if we let go, and we're like, well, whatever happens will happen. We'll end up, a lot of times that comes from cynicality, but it'll end up hurting us and the people around us. But when we engage, you can almost engage a sense of curiosity. What's coming? What's about to happen? Let's go. Let's engage with life. That's what active defense is about.
Well, and we see that. I mean, sometimes we talk about the old cynical man. We see a guy who's real cynical, hates life, and always talking about what people have done to him and how bad his life was and how it wasn't his fault. And those just aren't fun people to be around. But then you get around someone who's older, who still enjoys life, is very active in life, does things. Those people are fun to be around. And which one do you want to be? And a lot of it has to do with, are you living actively or passively when it comes to your defense?
And I think some of that is recognizing what is in your control and what is not in your control. To go back to the tennis illustration, I have no control of what the person on the other side of the net does. I can't convince them to stop hitting. I can't choose where they hit it to me. But I can control what's on my side of the court. That's kind of how it is in life. Like, I can't control if my car breaks down randomly or not. I can't control what kind of a day my wife has when she comes home, or what kind of the day the kids have when they come home. There's plenty of elements that I can't control. But what active defense is about is what is in my control. I can't control how you just talked to me, but I can control how I respond to you.
And I think the key word in all of this is just intentionality. Whenever you're intentional about something, usually you're going to do a better job.
Absolutely.
I love to cook. If I'm cooking in the kitchen, I don't just grab whatever my hand reaches for in the fridge.
Right.
Or I'd be mixing sriracha sauce with, all kinds of weird stuff and have a terrible meal. But if I'm intentional, I'm getting certain ingredients together. And even if I'm just making something up, I think, okay, I think that'll go with this and that'll go with that. And you kind of put it together. That's intentionality. Intentionality doesn't mean you're going to be perfect, but you're being intentional. And I think when it comes to life, too often we're not intentional. And intentionality really is being active on the defensive side. I'm doing things intentionally to protect myself, to protect my family. You know, you talk about guys who set up alarms on their house, or make sure the doors are locked, or they have a gun that's accessible to them and things like that. They do all of that to protect. They're being intentional about it. But if you're a guy who doesn't lock your doors, doesn't have any alarms, doesn't have a firearm, and somebody invades your house, you're just kind of stuck. You think, well, I can take them out with a lamp. Okay, a lamp can only go so
good
far.
Good luck. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so you want to think about, what am I doing intentionally? Because when you're intentional as a man, I think you feel empowered.
Absolutely.
But you got to understand that you're not going to be perfect.
No.
Sometimes you're going to try to be intentional. It's not going to work.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, we've all done that. You know, like when it comes to areas like eating. Oh, I'm going to start eating healthy. And maybe you eat healthy for 2 days. But man, that third day hits you for a loop. You know, things go bad at work. This happens, that happened. And next thing you know, you're at Five Guys ordering a large fries all for you with the double burger and a shake.
So, that just sounds intimidating.
Yeah, it does. It's probably 3 days worth of calories in one day. But, you know, it happens. But the thing you want to do is be intentional about, okay, what am I going to do to make sure, one, that doesn't happen again?
Yeah.
Or what am I doing in my life that's letting these things take me out?
Yeah, and a lot of it seems to be about momentum. A lot of it is about the momentum of your life. When you are living on a passive defense life is hitting you. And it's almost like if you're in a fight, of course I'm going to think medieval because that's my favorite. Like you're in a fight and you've got a shield and you're just taking the hits and you're holding the shield up and you're taking the hits and you're taking steps backwards because it's hitting hard.
Yeah.
That's just a passive defense. You know, you're just holding up the shield. Active defense may be turning it around, where when they hit, you counterattack, or when they hit, you kind of turn it around to shift their momentum against them. Yeah. That's kind of like, that's why you said intentionality. That's why we're saying to engage with life. When you're engaged with life and something crappy happens, because that's life. Yeah. You know, you get sick or a big repair needs to happen. The intentional way of living is not, well, let's see how long the car can run with this problem. It'll probably be fine. Yeah. It turns into, all right, who do I take it to? When can I get this done? Let me go call. Let me make up an appointment or whatever. You're being intentional. Yeah. But that's empowering. It is. It's empowering when you're not just receiving from life, you're responding to life.
Well, and I saw a thing one time in Consumer Reports about the people who have cars that go the longest, often the ones who do the scheduled maintenance in the book. They're okay, I'm at 120,000 miles. This is supposed to be replaced. Let me go ahead and do that. Said those people rarely have a unknown breakdown. It can still happen when the car gets older, but they're already taking care of some things before it could happen.
And that is a kind of defense.
It is. It is. And I think we need to look at our lives and go, okay, what am I doing on purpose to not have those times? Yeah. You know, maybe I'm overloading my schedule. Yes. Yeah. You know, and I think, gosh, it's so easy to do that. And you feel bad sometimes saying no, but there is an empowerment to, I'm sorry, I just can't do that. You're almost like, yeah, I'm taking my time back. I'm doing things for me.
It's about what you're saying yes to. Whenever like these opportunities come up that are good, but they're not great. Yeah. Or they're great for somebody else, but not for you. It becomes an opportunity. You're saying no isn't just saying no because you don't feel like doing something. Yeah. It's saying yes to like, hey, I'm not going to be able to do that sports group. Yeah. Because I spend time with my family on Tuesday nights. You know, I'm not going to be able to do that workout time or that class or whatever. I'm going to have to do this because I want to defend my family's time. That's the good version of defense, an active defense.
Yeah, and when I like the example of your health, because like exercise, rarely do people always feel like exercising, but you're thinking, okay, I want to be in better shape so later I'm not dealing with as much sickness. I mean, if you've ever seen people who, as they get older, get really, really sick, a lot of times it's because they didn't take care of themselves when they were younger. So if you pay the price early, you can enjoy the benefits later. And I think we have to think that way defensively of, okay, I want to protect myself. So I'm going to go walk. I'm going to go run. I'm going to lift weights. I'm going to do the things that I need to do so that I can be stronger longer. So I can be around for my family. Stronger longer, I like that. That was kind of a cool little saying.
Yeah. Let's give some examples of what passive defense looks like.
Okay.
We're talking a lot about active defense. I think we will come back to that in a moment just to flesh it out a little bit more. Yeah. But let's look at the unhealthy version of living on the defensive.
Yeah.
What if a guy's looking at his life? Well, let's do me. If I'm looking at my life, what are some things, almost some warning signs that I'm living in a way that is the unhealthy version of living defensively?
Yeah. I think one of the easiest ways to kind of check yourself is think, am I always taking the easy way out? Am I letting things go? I had a guy here a couple weeks ago, as an AC guy, doing a checkup on my unit.
Yeah.
And he showed me a video of one of the houses he went to, because he goes to houses where he says hoarding is a real thing.
Yeah.
But he showed me this video of this one house. It was absolutely crazy how much stuff was in this house, how dirty the house was. And in the video, it showed the guy who lived there. It didn't show his face, but he was sitting across the room in a chair right in front of a TV with like 5 bags of garbage next to him. Because he has a garbage can. He fills it up, takes the bag out, and just sets it down. His whole house was like that.
Yeah.
His whole house was loaded with stuff. So he couldn't even take the time to clean or even just keep it somewhat neat. I'm not saying it has to be all perfect, but to me that spoke to, okay, what's going on in his life?
Yeah.
And I think for us, we have to think, am I always taking the easy way out? Instead of eating healthy, I always grab fast food. Instead of exercising, I sit in front of the TV. Instead of reading my Bible, I just sit on TikTok. Those are easy things. And I think we have to be careful that we're not letting those things own us, because that's just going whatever's easiest. Then you get into your relationship. Well, my wife, it's going okay, but I'm not really, I'll just let her have her way and everything. And my kids, well, whatever, as long as they're quiet, I don't care what they do. That's the path of least resistance, and that's usually not a good path.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And we've talked about this before. Escapism.
Yeah.
I think that's a great example. Like when you are letting life happen to you, you have to have some kind of outlet for just receiving the hits of life and not doing anything to engage back.
Yeah.
So you'll run to something else. You'll get really good at a sport or a hobby or a video game, or you get really into watching a show. So you can get some kind of semblance of progress.
Yeah.
Because humans, we guys are designed to win,
Yeah.
We're designed to be winners.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean it comes easy. That doesn't mean that it happens smoothly. It doesn't mean it happens in a way that's clean and pretty. It doesn't happen as quick as the compilations of training for Rocky.
Yeah, I know.
Within 3 to 5 minutes, you see 6 months worth of grueling training happen. It's not like that, but we want to win. We guys want to be winners. And that's where the active defense comes into the picture, is like, there's that side of us that wants to be killing it at life.
Yeah.
And if we aren't getting that, I think a big warning sign is we're going somewhere else to get that sense of we're doing something right.
Well, you look at guys who spend a lot of time in the video game world playing online games for hours upon hours. They may have winning campaigns, so they get that sense that dopamine hit of I won something.
Yeah, they're playing the ranked match.
Yeah, but their outside life is falling apart.
Yep. Or golf.
Yeah.
Golf is a huge one.
It's huge.
Guys will invest, every weekend, 8 hours every time. They'll wake up early to go to the golf course, but they won't talk to their wife.
Yeah.
That's you want the active part. You want to be intentional, so you're going to find something to be intentional with.
Well, and it used to be, before you had the myriad of options that we have today, it almost kind of forced you to be active in your life. You could have a hobby, you could do stuff, but there wasn't this 24/7 access to entertainment, 24/7 access to social media. There wasn't the gaming world. Mm-hmm. If anything, you had to work to have a hobby in something.
Right.
People used to build like model airplanes and stuff like that. You don't really see people doing that anymore because they're like, well, that takes too much time. I'm not going to do that. Mm-hmm. And so we've got to look at what are we doing that maybe is causing us to just get away from life. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying once in a while it's not good to do that. It is good. Sometimes we just need a break.
Well, part of having a good active defense in your life is having a good healthy outlet.
It is.
That can be a positive.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with, I love playing this sport with my friends.
Yeah.
I know a guy, he's the current DYD of Mississippi. He loves basketball and pickleball.
Yeah.
And he goes and he does those things, Now, he doesn't abandon his family to go do them.
Yeah.
He invites them into that process or he takes them with him or whatever. So he's still engaging with his life, but you can have those things in a healthy way.
And that's it. It's understanding there is a balance and you want to have that. But again, that goes back to being intentional.
Yep.
And again, you're not going to be perfect. Yeah. You're going to mess some things up. You're going to maybe start here and end up here. And sometimes you start something and think this could be a good outlet and then, I don't like it. Mm-hmm. Just like a TV show. You start a TV show, you think, oh, it's going to be a good one. And you're like, I don't care about it. You move on to the next one. Mm-hmm. You can do that with other things. That's part of you being intentional in everything you do.
Yeah.
But it's also a fact that you don't quit trying.
Yeah.
You don't quit. Like if you want to lose weight and you try this one thing and it doesn't work, well, it doesn't mean you don't try something else. Mm-hmm. You keep working till you find what fits you. And I think a lot of us as men, we think, well, I have to do it that way. I have to do it that way.
I saw this on social media.
Yeah.
I saw this successful person do it. Mm-hmm. This is the Rocks workout routine.
I know.
I got to do the Rocks, and that's just not the case.
Yeah. And I think for us, it's understanding that defense is good, but defense isn't everything.
Yeah.
We can have an active defense, but we don't want to live defensively.
Yeah. An active defense is more difficult up front.
It is.
Because it requires more effort. Mm-hmm. However, it is much easier in the long term.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you find out that you have a cyst or maybe something on your skin that's growing.
Yeah.
Active defense says, well, let me go get that dealt with right now. Let's go cut it off or take whatever serum I need to do. The passive defense is like, I guess I'll deal with it if it hurts a lot.
Yeah.
Or like, to take it to something else, let's say you hurt your foot. Mm-hmm. Active defense is going to a doctor, finding out exactly what's wrong and going through the process of healing it. Yeah. That takes more work than just popping some pain pills.
Yep, it does.
However, if all you ever do is pop pain pills and you've got a broken foot, that's going to cost you a lot more in the long term.
It will.
So it's that weird imbalance. Mm-hmm. The active defense costs more up front and is more beneficial long term.
Yeah.
It's easier long term.
Yeah.
The passive defense is easier up front, but it makes your life a lot harder long term.
It does, and I think that's a great way to look at it. You want to stay on that active side and understand, hey, this is hard.
Yeah.
This is tough. Like as men, we have to guard ourselves. We have to guard our heart. There's a lot of temptation out there. There's a lot of things that we want to look at. We have to protect ourselves. That's a lot of work. Mm. It's work to do. It's a pain. It's hard, but you're doing it on purpose. And that's the point, because you have a bigger goal in mind. And I think as men, we have to remember that goal and we have to hold on to it and say, okay, this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah. And be encouraged, guys. You are wired to win at hard things.
Yes, you are.
God gave us that. I mean, we love that. I mean, let's look at the video game example. There's an entire series called Dark Souls, which is built off of just being ridiculously difficult.
Really?
Yes, like the whole series, it's super easy to die. If you die, you have to go all the way back to the beginning of the game.
Get out.
It is punishment after punishment, and they're best-selling games because it taps into that side of a lot of guys that I want to do something hard and win at it.
Yeah.
We have life. Life is hard. Nobody's going to pretend like it's not. It's not some pipe dream. It's difficult. However, there is a sense of satisfaction. Being able to say, I don't feel like doing this. It's the last thing I want to do today.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it because it's defending something I care about.
Yeah.
And when you finish that thing, you will have a level of satisfaction that no video game can give, that no hole-in-one at a golf course can give.
Yeah.
Because you're doing something important that you care about consistently.
Yeah.
That's what active defense is all about.
It is. And there's a sense of respect that I think men today are missing because of that. They don't have the self-respect. Maybe they don't have respect of their girlfriends or their wives or their children because they're not living actively. They're not living intentionally.
They've checked out.
And I think as men, we have to recapture that. We have to recapture that intentionality. We have to recapture that I'm going to do something hard. And even if I'm not perfect, I'm going to keep at it.
Yeah.
And I think when we do that, it makes all the difference in our lives.
Yeah. And for yourself, this is not something of, hey, just go beat yourself up and don't change your life.
Yeah.
We're just asking you to ask yourself two questions. One, how are you guarding your life? How are you defending your life? Is it that active defense we talked about? Or is it mostly passive defense? If the answer is passive defense, don't just beat yourself up and move on. Let's start looking at some ways to establish being more active in your defense. Most likely, it's recruiting other people into your system, into your world. And then asking yourself for the future, are you going to do the difficult things? Are you willing to pay that higher upfront cost so that your life long-term is better? Or do you want to take the path of least resistance?
Yeah.
That's the first step. We aren't even going to give you any more than that. Just ask yourself those two questions. That way you can really see where you're at and where you want to go.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And then just keep at it. And that's why we say get a support system. Doing it by yourself is very hard, if not impossible. You really want to find that support system to encourage and help you and challenge you when your emotions go up and down, because they will. They always do.
Yeah. You're right, though. Like, being able to do all this kind of difficult stuff alone is pretty much impossible.
It is.
You need help. And it is from God, but it's also from other people. We all need some kind of a system where guys are not only helping each other in their weak areas, but challenging each other to be better in the difficult areas.
Yeah.
That's why this month we are launching a beta group version of a community for men.
Yeah.
We are in the process of that, and we'll be rolling out more details about that. But essentially, it's built around this idea that true, sustainable, effective, long-term growth, living that active defense, that doesn't happen alone. It happens with other guys.
Yep.
And that's how we can conquer our own life. We can switch from defense to offense.
Yes, we can.
We need the tools to do it. We need the team to support us. And that's what our beta group is all about. So we'll be launching that in the future, but it's in process right now. We're excited about it.
Yeah, very excited. There's a lot of guys that we've talked to who are going to be joining us, and we're going to kind of work out some of the kinks, figure some things out, and then launch it for you guys in the future.
Yeah. So we'll give you more details about that, and we'll continue these topics we're talking about. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Thriving Man Podcast. If you want to check out more resources from David and Reese, you can go to thrivingman.com. We'll see you in the next episode.
Before we continue, it's not recording. not recording.
No.
It's not recording. But that's recording. So do we want to work with a crappier version of audio from the camera, or do we need to redo it? This is an active defense moment.
We had such good stuff.
I know. Hold on.
They